Here's the thing. The world is full of brilliant beginnings, notebooks swollen with sketches, drives littered with drafts, whiteboards stained with arrows and ambition. And yet, when you pull back the curtain, what you see is a quiet graveyard of almost half-finished projects, abandoned prototypes, ideas that were luminous at midnight and lifeless by Monday. I've walked through that graveyard. I've put headstones there. When I dropped out of Reed College, it didn't feel heroic. It felt uncertain and raw. I slept on floors, returned Coke bottles for nickels, and walked across town on Sunday nights for a free meal at the 𝐅𝐢𝐧𝐢𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐧𝑠 temple. But dropping out, let me drop in to the few things that actually held my attention, like gravity. Calligraphy was one of them. I sat in a room watching ink meet paper, learning how the weight of a stroke could whisper or shout, how the space between letters could feel like a breath. None of it was practical. But I learned a truth that I would spend the rest of my life defending. The details aren't details, they are the product. The difference between something that exists and something that matters is the last mile you walk when everyone else is already celebrating. People imagine creativity as sparks flying and fireworks going off. It's not. Creativity is the taste to see what's right, the courage to cut what's wrong, and the discipline to keep going until the work says, now. I've stood in rooms at 2 a.m. where the team's eyes were red and the arguments were loud, not because we loved fighting, but because we loved the user. We loved the promise we made to ourselves that what we shipped would be insanely great, not conveniently acceptable. I also know what it's like to lose the thread. I was fired from Apple at 30, the company I started with was in my parents' garage. That loss stripped me of a title and returned me to a question, what do I actually love doing? It turned out I didn't love being successful. I loved building. I loved the feeling when a thing that didn't exist in the morning existed by night. I loved shipping. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. That lightness taught me another truth. Momentum is a decision. You don't find it, you make it by finishing. If you're listening to this and you can feel the weight of your unfinished work pressing on your chest, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to hand you a clean page and a deadline. Because here's the simple, unglamorous, miraculous rule that changed everything I touched. Real artists ship. Not someday, not when it's perfect. They ship, they launch, they press send. They publish, they put the thing in the world so it can collide with reality, be judged by people who don't owe them kindness, and either change their lives or teach them what to build next. There's a reason your backlog keeps growing while your soul feels smaller. The longer you delay finishing, the more your imagination is allowed to invent dragons. It's not ready. It's missing something. They'll tear it apart. Maybe. Or maybe what's missing is a date on the calendar that cannot be negotiated, a small audience who will hold you to it, and the willingness to spend 2 more hours on the final 10% where excellence lives. Most people never get to that neighborhood. They circle the block and call it a day. Your time is limited. Remembering you'll be dead soon is the most powerful tool I know for making big choices. When you look at your life that way, delay looks silly, excuses look loud, and the work that matters steps forward and introduces itself. The graveyard doesn't need another monument. The world needs one more thing you actually finish and ship. So let's talk about the rule. Let's talk about what separates professionals from tourists. Let's talk about the discipline that will turn your ideas into a dent in the universe. Core principle, real artists ship. People love to romanticize the idea. They imagine genius as a lightning bolt that strikes, a moment of inspiration that explains everything that comes after. But ideas are easy. Execution is rare. Real artists ship. I said it because I lived it. The difference between a hobby and a legacy is the courage to finish and the courage to share. Ship doesn't mean rush. Shipping is not slapping a bow on mediocrity and pushing it out the door to meet a metric. Shipping is the decision to get the right thing into people's hands and then relentlessly improve it in public. It's the discipline of choosing a standard, choosing a date, and letting that constraint force the essence to emerge. When we were building the Macintosh, there was a day for everything, an actual day. A day when the screen would show type that looked like type. A day when the hello wouldn't just render, it would feel like a friend. A day when the first minute with the machine would make a person smile without being told why. Those days weren't arbitrary, they were commitments. We pinned ourselves to them and let the physics of the calendar make us better. Shipping is an expression of respect. Respect for the user's time, respect for the team's effort, respect for your own life. You can't call something insanely great if it never leaves the lab. You can't change the world with a secret. At some point, you have to decide that your work is strong enough to be judged and sturdy enough to be improved. Finishing is also how you build taste. People think taste is an opinion. It's a memory. The memory of having been through the fire enough times to know what matters in the end. You don't acquire that memory by thinking about finishing. You acquire it by finishing. Every shipped thing, big or small, etches instructions into your nervous system. This is where the real bugs hide. This is where the copy betrays you. This is the point where shaving another 5 seconds off the load time changes the first impression from fine to wow. I've been in 1,000 rooms where somebody says, let's add one more feature, and I've learned to hear that as fear. Fear of being judged, fear of choosing. Shipping demands courage because shipping is a form of intimacy. You are saying, here, I made this. That sentence invites praise and ridicule, adoption and indifference, and you don't get to control which. What you get to control is the standard you hold and the date you keep. And one more thing, focus is the skeleton under shipping. You cannot finish what you keep diluting. Saying no to 1,000 things isn't a quote for posters, it's a practical requirement. If your product or your day has too many branches, you will never get enough sunlight to ripen the fruit. The discipline of shipping is the discipline of cutting. You subtract until the story is clear enough to move a human being in the first minute and durable enough to keep its promise in the 100th hour. Real artists ship. They finish, they launch, they learn, and they do it again. That's the engine. That's how careers are built and companies are saved. That's how you take an idea that lives in your head and turn it into a tool that lives in someone's life. Framework, the ship it system. Turns out you don't need a complicated system. You need a simple one you'll actually do. Here's mine, 3 moves. Repeat it until your work becomes inevitable. Set an unbreakable deadline. Not a target, not Q3-ish, a date with a name. Treat it like a product in the store or a keynote on the calendar. Pin it to the wall. Tell a small circle of people who will not let you escape. Make the scope negotiable, make the date sacred. I learned early that a real deadline is a forge. It burns away indulgence and forces the essence to the surface. The question stops being what else can we add and becomes what must be true by this date for the thing to deliver its promise. That's a better question. It pulls out the critical path. It exposes the actual dependencies. It makes trade-offs honest. Give your deadline a story. On Friday at 5 p.m., the prototype goes to 5 customers. By Thursday morning, the landing page is live and accepts payments. Next Tuesday, the deck is in the CEO's inbox. You will be tempted to pick a date that protects your ego. Don't. Pick a date that respects your future and tether the date to the user's first minute. What will the first minute feel like? What must exist for that minute to tell the truth about the next 100 hours? Make that your definition of done. That keeps you from shipping a corpse dressed in confetti. Iterate in public with a small group. Private work calcifies, public work breathes. When you work in secret for too long, you start out designing for your own anxiety. You polish the wrong corners. You imagine critics with perfect aim and you try to anticipate them all. Stop. Find a small group of people you trust not to flatter you, but to tell you the truth. Put the work in their hands. Watch their faces. Listen to where they stumble. Ask them to narrate what they expect and why the product didn't meet it. That's data. That's oxygen. The temptation is to wait until it's ready. But ready is a mirage that keeps moving away from you as you approach. Instead, align on a question. Is the first minute clear? Does the story land? Is the core interaction delightful or heavy? Build to answer that question. Ship that answer to your small group. Iterate. Repeat. The point is not to outsource taste. The point is to learn fast where taste meets reality. We built early betas not to show off progress, but to confront our fantasies. The product tells you what it wants when you watch someone. Else try to love it. Iterate in public, but keep the circle tight. Feedback from the right. Dozen people beats applause from 1,000 strangers who are just killing time. 3. Sweat the final. 10%. Most people never get here. They sprint the first 90%, it's intoxicating, and then they coast. The final 10% is where the work becomes itself. It's where the edges are sanded until the hand relaxes, where the affordances say, touch me without words, where the copy stops sounding like a committee and starts sounding like a person. It's where you remove the last speed bump in onboarding, shave the extra second that ruins the first impression, fix the bug that only shows up when you're tired, and rewrite the headline until it lands like a bell. The final 10% is not a bonus round. It's the product. If you skip it, you ship something that feels almost right and almost dies quickly in the wild. I've stood over a team's shoulder and asked them to change a corner radius by a single pixel because the hand could feel it even if the eye couldn't name it. That's not obsession for its own sake. That's respect. People can feel whether you respected them. The final 10% is how you show it. The paradox is this. The only way to earn the time and energy to sweat the final 10% is to ship the first 90% on a schedule. That's why we set the date first. Without a date, perfectionism metastasizes. With a date, perfectionism becomes craft. If this system resonates, if you can feel how a real deadline, a public iteration loop, and devotion to the last mile would change your work, then show it. Subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community that doesn't just dream differently, we ship differently. We are the people who put a date on the calendar, invite the right feedback, and finish the job with taste. Join us, and hold me to the same standard I'm asking of you. Shipping the impossible. During the Macintosh years, we did something a lot of people called impossible. We made a computer that greeted you with hello, that spoke in a language of icons and windows, when the rest of the world thought command lines were the natural order of things. It didn't happen because we were smarter. It happened because we were more stubborn about shipping. We raised a pirate flag over the building. It wasn't rebellion for rebellion's sake, it was identity. It's better to be a pirate than join the Navy. The flag said, we don't ask for permission to make taste visible. We ask what the user deserves and we ship that, even if the rest of the company is uncomfortable, even if the calendar laughs at us. Deadlines were not polite suggestions. They were real dates with real consequences. When we pinned a milestone to the wall, it meant we had made promises not to investors but to the future user who would sit down in front of this machine after a long day and quietly ask, is this going to make my life better? Every decision, what to cut, what to polish, what to ignore, was made with that person in mind. There were nights when the operating system felt like a stubborn animal. There were days when fonts misbehaved in ways that would make you think ghosts were writing code. We were ahead of our tools and sometimes behind our tempers. I pushed hard. People have told stories about how hard. I won't defend every moment, but I will defend the intent. The work mattered. We were building a thing that would serve millions of people who would never know our names. The work deserved our best and then a little more. I remember walking the floor and asking, show me the first minute. Not the 100th hour, the first minute, because the first minute is a promise. If you get it right, the user will give you their trust long enough for the rest to unfold. If you get it wrong, the user closes the lid and never returns. When I didn't feel the promise, we didn't move on. We cut features to protect the promise. We changed copy to make the promise honest. We kept the date, but we filled it with the right thing. We shipped the Macintosh. It wasn't perfect. Nothing is. But it was alive. It spoke to people who didn't think computers could speak to them. That's what shipping does at its best. It translates ambition into relief for someone else. It transforms we could into we did, and in the space between those statements, lives change. And one more thing. The pressure to ship didn't end with launch. Launch day is not graduation, it's enrollment. The product enters the world and tells you loudly and clearly what the next version must do. If you have the humility to listen and the courage to keep shipping, you get a flywheel. If you celebrate and go to sleep, the world passes you by while you dream about the press you got on day one. The Mac team learned that the only way to build the future is to meet it on a date and hold hands tight, enough to make it real. That lesson has no expiration date. It applies to your app, your course, your album, your book, your startup. Set the date, show the work early, sweat the last mile, ship, action plan, 7 days to ship. It turns out you don't cure procrastination with inspiration, you cure it with a calendar and a consequence. Here's a simple, sharp plan to ship one small, unfinished project in 7 days. Not a framework to admire, a schedule to keep. Day 0, choose and commit. Pick one small, unfinished thing. Not your magnum opus. Something you can reasonably finish in a week if you quit lying to yourself. A landing page, a 2-minute video, a beta version of a feature, a blog post that scares you, a sales page, a tiny app. Write down the deliverable in one sentence. On day 7, I will deliverable to audience at time. Put this sentence where you can't miss it. Text it to a friend who will laugh at your excuses. Define done by the first minute for a landing page. The headline lands and the button works. For a video, the hook is clear in 15 seconds and the audio doesn't hurt. For a feature, the core action is obvious and reliable. Scope is your ally. Shrink it until it fits your 7-day box without lowering the standard for the first minute. Day 1, set the date, design the first minute, put the ship date on your calendar. Invite your small group, 3 to 5 people who will tell you the truth. Design the first minute on paper. What does the user see, hear, feel immediately? Write the first headline. Sketch the first screen. Script the first 30 seconds. If you can't make the first minute compelling on paper, the rest is decoration. Day 2, build the spine. Create the bare minimum that makes the first minute real. No polish, no extended features. If it's a landing page, build the hero section and make the button functional. If it's a feature, wire the core interaction end to end, even if everything around it is ugly. If it's a video, record a rough cut of the first 30 seconds with clear audio. The goal is to make the first minute testable. Day 3, iterate in public, tiny circle. Give your small group access. Ask them to narrate their first minute. Where do they hesitate? Where do their eyes go? What do they expect next? Do not defend. Do not explain. Listen. Take notes. Translate comments into actions. Confusion at headline, rewrite with users' words. Missed button, increase contrast and reposition. Audio harsh, re-record with clean input. Day 4. Build the middle, guard the edges. Extend beyond the first minute, but keep the story coherent. If a choice doesn't make the first minute clearer or the next action easier, put it on a list for after launch. Protect your scope like a bouncer at a club. Good ideas wait. Add one delight, if and only if it strengthens trust, an elegant micro-interaction, a satisfying confirmation, a tiny moment that tells the user a human made this. Day 5. Sweat the final 10% on the first minute. Now devote the bulk of your energy to the last mile of the first minute. Sharpen the headline. Soften the corner that catches the eye. Reduce the tap targets that mislead fingers. Cut the sentence that apologizes for itself. Shave the load time. Re-record the audio in a quiet room with the mic 6 inches from your mouth. Write button copy that says what it does. Replace submit with a verb the user actually wants to press. This is not nitpicking. This is respect. Day 6. Dress rehearsal with consequences. Send the near final version to your small group with a single question. Would you share this? Not do you like it? Sharing is a higher bar. Fix only those issues that prevent a yes to that question without moving the date. If you're tempted to delay, you've chosen the wrong problem to fix. The date is the constraint that protects your integrity from your fear. Prepare your launch mechanics. The link works. The buy button charges. The email is queued. The video description is written. The tweet is honest. The support inbox is real. The smallest broken thing on launch day becomes the biggest story. Don't let it be the first impression. Day 7, ship, push it live, send the email, publish the video, flip the feature flag, announce the thing, do it at the exact time you promised. Then do something most people never do. Spend the next hour listening. Watch analytics, sure, but more importantly, watch faces. Read replies, answer questions. Don't argue with the feedback. Don't explain, take notes, thank people. The world is telling you what to build next after launch the 24-hour rule. For 24 hours, you're not allowed to add features, write manifestos, or move the date in hindsight. Fix a showstopper bug if you must. Otherwise, do 2 things. Write a 1-page postmortem, what worked, what didn't, what surprised you, and write a 7-day improvement plan based on what you heard. Put the first improvement on the calendar. Small, fast, specific. Shipping again is how you show yourself this wasn't a fluke. Scripts for saying no this week so you can ship. This isn't aligned with what I'm shipping on date, so I'm going to pass. I can meet after launch date. Before then, my first minute needs my full attention. This is good, but it's not essential for the first minute. I'm deferring it until after we ship. I appreciate the idea. If we can't make it improve the user's first minute, it waits. What to measure? Measure promises kept. Did you ship on the date you set? Did you make the first minute honest? Did someone who doesn't owe you anything use it without your explanation? Did you learn something specific enough to shape the next release? Retweets are nice. Revenue matters. But trust yours in yourself and your users in you compounds faster than either when you keep your dates and respect their time. And one more thing. If this plan lights a fire under you, if you can feel the relief that comes when a week ends with something real in the world, then subscribe to this channel. We're building a crew obsessed with finishing, launching, learning, and doing it again. This is the Steve Jobs mindset, and the mindset ships. Closing, stay hungry, stay foolish. I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it because it keeps saving me. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your inner voice. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. That courage is expressed in one practical way. You finish what you start. You ship. You make the promise, and you keep it. The difference between a life of almost and a life of I did is not talent. It's not access. It's not luck. It's a rule you can live by, starting today. Real artists ship. They set dates. They invite the right eyes. They sweat the last mile. They say no to everything that doesn't protect those choices. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask the market to predict their future. They build the future in public, one launch at a time. When I was standing on stages in a black turtleneck introducing products to the world, people thought the magic was in the show. The real magic happened long before the lights, when a room full of people who cared too much chose a date, made a promise to the user, tore out everything that didn't serve the first minute, and stayed late for the final 10%. The show was the ceremony. The shipping was the sacrament. If you're still listening, I know something about you. You're tired of the graveyard. You're ready for a week where the thing is no longer in your head but in someone's hands. Good. Pick the project. Write the sentence. Set the date. Tell your small group. Build the first minute. Ship. Then wake up and do it again. That's how you turn a habit into a legacy. If this speaks to you, if you're ready to finish what you start and start what you intend to finish, subscribe to this channel and press the like button. Join a community that will hold you to your dates, celebrate your launches, and push you to respect the final 10% where excellence lives. The journey doesn't end here. It begins again on your calendar, 7 days from now, when you keep the promise you made today. Stay hungry, stay foolish, and now go and do something wonderful. Ship it.